Hey, I'm Third Nerd. So, back in the ancient year of 2025, I wanted something to do during my free time and thought, hey, what if I made my own game? That'd be pretty fun. I already like coding and I have experience in making sprite work, music, 3D models, and such. It'd be awesome. Fast forward a year, and my game has went from a playable prototype with basic functionality to a playable prototype with basic functionality. Let's talk about it. Now, first of all, I'm not going to bore all of you with all the details of all the coding. Getting the physics engine to work, getting my combat system set up, all that jazz, because I know some of you might not be too interested in all of it. Some of you might not even know who I am or what my game is, so I think that's more important to get across first. This is Family Tree, now called Family Trio. The game stars this young lad up here named Hyde. Yes, his name is pronounced like that. And his journey as he tries to lead his trio of his sister, Kat, and his cousin Jake through various trials and tribulations to receive the 7 musical clefs. Here's my prototype build for what the game plays like. It's a turn-based role-playing game with combat in the style of a game like Mario and Luigi. However, early on, I got an idea for a central theme for my game's world building and gameplay. Take a look. Yep, your attacks are timed to the beat of the music. Not only that, but you're also able to counter or parry attacks that the enemies throw at you, which are also timed to the beat of the music. If you're familiar with the Mario RPGs already, then this shouldn't be a very foreign concept, but if you aren't, then try to think of it sort of like a WarioWare or Rhythm Heaven minigame as your characters attack. The first time I thought of this idea, I went, it's genius! Not only is this an interesting spin on the gameplay formula, it also gives me a good theme to work with when designing gameplay elements in my world. Whether any of those statements will ring true in the future, only time will tell. So, more about the combat. All 3 characters have 2 basic attacks. Now, originally, my idea was for Hyde to use a tennis ball and racket to attack enemies, but the more development continued on, the more I thought this wouldn't really fit the game. Not only because the tennis ball doesn't really fit with the theme of music and all, but racket, Hyde, and company just looks bad, alright? The attack isn't anything too special. Hyde simply throws a tennis ball up into the air and hits it with his tennis racket when the ball falls down to the beat. Fail and he gets a concussion. Later replace this with a wrench attack where Hyde throws a wrench at the enemy. Why a wrench? Well, first off, Hyde and his family work as a mechanic, and second off, I think it's really funny. The other attack that Hyde can perform is the kick attack. Now, those of you who are familiar with the Mario RPGs will know that the bros primarily jump on their enemies as their attack. This aspect is also present in Family Trios somewhat. It is instead in the form of a powerful kick attack where you can flutter and slam straight into the enemies if you time your action input well enough. To me, this feels very satisfying to do, especially with the loud hit sound when you time it perfectly. Now, this seemed pretty cool and all, but it did come across various problems while designing this rhythm game-esque turn-based combat system. First off is my design philosophy. The main design philosophy when designing these and all future attacks is to try and time your inputs with primarily audio cues, similar to how Rhythm Heaven designs its minigames. While this works very well in my favor of getting the player into the groove of their music, there's a very big problem with that. It's just very hard to indicate well. I sent some early builds to my friends and watched them play through the combat on a screen share, and I was kinda shocked to see how many of them weren't able to hit the timing. Now, granted, this could have been because my early rhythm timing code and optimization wasn't the best at this point in time, which could have caused their computers to screw up while running the game, but I was still worried about people getting stuck, unable to hit timing after a beat, and eventually losing due to not being able to kill the enemies in time. To fix this, I later decided to introduce this circle to battles. It doesn't change any of the rhythm windows to make them easier to hit. I simply added this circle that shrinks down to help gives visual indicators of when to time buttons. I know this kinda contradicts my philosophy of timing attacks with only audio cues, but we'll get into a solution I came up with later. Okay, now that we've got the basics out of the way, let's go into some miscellaneous stuff I worked on outside of the battle system. Now, this game is a role-playing game, so having memorable and interesting set locations, characters, and enemies is a necessity to build interest. The first area I decided to try and design and make is a forest area with moss. I want to delve into story details too early as of now because that would essentially spoil the surprise of what's to come in the future if there is one. But all you really need to know is that this will be the first area or dungeon of the game and will aim to try and teach players how the gameplay will function. Along with that, I started work on a few more enemies to go with this forest theme, so I'll showcase footage of them in no particular order here. They all currently have only one attack pattern, so it's not exactly going to be a surprise after the first time you fight them, but hey, look at this cool spiky boy. Does he remind you of any franchise in particular? After designing the enemies, I realized that some of the timings to dodge these are not very obvious. It's the exact same problem that we had earlier. This might be the fault of there not being much of a tutorial implemented and the optimization issues I mentioned, but my friends were still really struggling to dodge a lot of these attacks. I had removed the timing indicators from the game at this point of development because of the design philosophy I mentioned earlier, but I still wanted a way for players to toggle them on if they get stuck somehow. Can you think of a feature that checks both these boxes off? Yeah, I added an assist mode. Don't worry, it's only really intended for practice in battle, and if it's on, your attacks do half as much damage as usual. So it's not exactly going to be on the entire time anyway. The final area of development I want to cover is the overworld and how I implemented the various moves here. First off, since you have 3 party members jumping around and potentially falling off when I'm trying to do platforming, I decided to add a flutter button that lets Hyden and his trio jump all at the same time. Along with that, it doubles as a kicking attack that lets you do a preemptive strike on overworld enemies. There are 2 dollars that any role-playing game cannot live without: items and equipment. Here I decided to mix up these 2 systems a bit. You have a limited amount of item slots you can carry, so you'd have to be wise with the items you carry to battle. Along with that, items can stack in the inventory. Most of the current items stack up to 9, but they have plans for items that stack up to 3 and items that don't stack at all. And I aim for this to balance out the stronger game-changing battle-winning items with the weaker ones. Along with that is my game's equipment system. It's entirely badges. If you've played Paper Mario games before, this will probably look familiar. Badges in my game will define how each battle plays out. I want the battles to have a lot more impact on how you approach each enemy encounter or boss, as the strategy that goes with the equipment is personally the most fun aspect of many role-playing games to me. This will definitely be in the form of badges with effects that benefit certain playstyles and can potentially synergize with each other or synergize with the moves the trio can do. There are currently a little over 5 badges implemented into the game as of now, and while most of them still have very basic abilities like giving more stats or recovering HP, I have many more planned and I'm excited to show off in the future. And that about wraps it for this devlog. I've kind of been struggling to come out with an outro for this video. I've been thinking of making a devlog for a pretty long time now in the past, but I've never got around to doing it until now. So obviously a lot of information to be taking in for a first devlog, especially since I plan for them to only be small periodic updates of development. I'm still not really familiar with the process of making devlogs in the first place, but I had a lot of stuff I've been working on for the past year that I can't wait to see be actually released in a game. So I'm probably going to use this final bit to address some questions you might have for me after watching this. Okay, let's go. First question is, where are the special attacks? Currently, I only have one special gadget attack implemented into the game, and it uses a lot of outdated animation and coding. It doesn't really hold up that well in the current build of the game. So I'm planning to rework it into an entirely different attack along with adding more soon. Don't worry, you will be getting your funny slapstick attacks coming soon. I just need more time to cook. Second question is, when will you release a public build? I honestly have no concrete plan for this yet. Since I'm currently attending college as well, there's definitely going to be periods where I have to lock into my college assignments and take priorities off development for Family Trio. So it's hard to say the soonest I could release a build on a site like itch.io for the public to play. However, my hopes is to get one out by early to mid 2027. Hopefully it could be sooner than that, but again, college, so there's no guarantee that that's going to happen. In the meantime, I'll probably post small dev updates that definitely won't be as long as the video you're watching right now, but hey, I want to keep you all updated, so yeah. Anyway, that's about a wrap. And before I go, you should also check some of the music I've made for a Family Trio, which is also on my YouTube. See ya!